Columbus is not an easy place to get into because you got to connect, so you got to lay over. If there's problems, every time you got to take 2 planes, there's a chance of one of those flights getting delayed, makes it even longer. So it's never fun when you have to connect that way. But it is what it is, and we have to deal with it and move on.
Was there any consideration of just staying east and flying in from New York?
No, because it made no sense to stay in New York because there were no real practice facilities or opportunities, and so that meant we would have been in Columbus from Monday on, and didn't think the guys wanted to spend the week there. No offense to the city, but being able to get home and get Monday, Tuesday, and tonight, get 3 nights in their own beds was important.
Does your creme brulee place still exist in Columbus, or is there anything you like doing when you get back there?
My what?
Creme brulee. There was some restaurant.
Oh yeah, no, he's no longer there. Obviously, there's still some friends and people that I know there. See some of them. I still have a home there, so go and visit my renters and say hello.
Going back to the short week, how does that change your preparation this week?
Well, you got to get. Today's 3 days out, so we got to get a little more work in today, a little concentrated work, because tomorrow becomes a lost training day for us. So, so you just want to make sure the guys are right. So, even as you plan training and you come out here, sometimes you change things, as you gauge how guys are feeling and how things are going. And so we changed a few things a little bit today, but I think the guys will be ready to play.
Have you sensed any sort of fatigue between the travel, or is that something you kind of look at for the next game against Vancouver?
No, I think our guys will be fine. I think they're mentally strong. They're a good group that way. They've guys that have played a few years in this league are used to having travel and playing, and it's just something we gotta put that. We got to deal with it. And that's the reality.
Looking back at your time in Columbus, what does that time mean to you in hindsight?
It was a good time. It was a different project because I came in and took over a team that hadn't been doing well and so forth, and we ended up culminating it by winning an MLS Cup. So it was fun because it was a different challenge, a different project for me, and met a lot of good people there, had good friends. It was nice to have Mike Lapper there as an assistant coach who played for me at UCLA, and somebody I knew very, very well, who's become a friend, ever since he left UCLA. And so their family, and as I said, meeting people in that area, it was a comfortable situation, so it was good.
You brought in Brad pretty quick after that MLS Cup in 2008. Was that always part of the plan that you had hoped to have him in Seattle?
No, it was a situation where, when the expansion draft happened, I wasn't with the Sounders yet, but Brad was one of the guys available, and obviously it was a good selection to take him. They left him exposed. I'm not sure why. I wasn't involved in those decisions anymore as to who they were going to protect or not protect. I know when I saw the expansion lists, I was surprised to see him on there. Or the draft list, and so being able to pick him up was a good addition for the Sounders at the time.
Is it still sentimental at all going back to Columbus, or is it far enough removed now that it's just something close to being another game?
I don't know. You coach long enough, you have a few ex-teams. So, but it's like I said, there's still people I stay in contact with. There's a couple of fans who still email me all the time. I remember. I think he was at New York. He was at our game. There was a kid. I remember scouting when I scouted Adam Moffat. Went up there, and there's a little 10-year-old kid there watching the game, and he was so intense on the game, and so I started talking to him, and so we've stayed in touch. He's in college now, and so you get different things that happen and that connect you back and forth to that community. But certainly, the team's a much different team. The team's had a lot of turnover. I haven't had a chance to even think if there's anybody on the team that was there when I was there as coach. I think everybody's changed, but that's a normal part of it. But I'm happy about my time there. I was proud of what we did. I left a team that was a good team that won the Supporter Shield the year after, and so I think we built something that wasn't just built for one moment and would disappear. It was built for to last for a few years.
Both Brad and Chad have talked about how close-knit that group was that ended up winning the MLS Cup. Do you see any similarities between that team and your team here, just in the way they interact?
Yeah, good teams always have a way of interacting with each other and relating to each other, and they do it in different ways. That group was a little more homogenous in the sense that guys were similar in age a little bit. There were Chad Marshall and Brad were close in age, and Robbie Rogers was from that same age group. Eddie Gavin was right around that age. Frankie is just a man for all seasons. Hajduk, everybody's just he's in the group, and he just gets in there, and so all those guys together, and then Alejandro Moreno was right about that same age. So they had a lot of similar interests, in their lives at that point. They were all trying to do the same thing, and in Columbus sometimes it's, if you're making a little bit of money, can you buy a house and rent it out? So they all sort of had that going for themselves. But it was just a good group. They loved to play cards together, things like that. They liked to hang out together, so that's what made that work. It was sort of a group that was similar in age and had similar interests.
In those Columbus days with Brad, did you see the potential of anything but a midfielder in him?
When I had him in '85 with me with the under-20 team, I already played him at center back again. So he played everywhere already with the under-20s, from center back to central midfield to outside back to up front. So he always reminded me of that. I think everywhere I've gone, I've probably had a player like that. When I was in LA, it was really Sasha Victorine who I drafted, and Sasha Victorine played. I know he played center back for me one game. Played a lot of central midfield, but then I remember the playoff series against the Metro Stars, I had to play him at center forward, and he played center forward for me. So, and he was always, I think every team has that sort of guy that can sort of move around and play different spots.
Do you ever think about putting him in as goalkeeper?
Before he retires. The last game when he says, this is my last season, the last game of his last season, I'm going to stick him in goal for about 5 minutes so he can say he's played every position on the field.
In terms of going back to Columbus, what has Berhalter been able to do with that team as far as the players that he's brought in and his coaching philosophy?
Well, Greg's, I think, done a good job because he's had a philosophy and he's stuck with it. It was a little bit hard at times at the beginning of last season, but he stayed with it and he stayed true to that form. He's a very determined individual. He's a hard-working guy. I've known Greg for a few years, from his playing days and so forth, and he's always been a guy who's set very concrete goals and gone after them. He went over to Europe when probably a lot of people didn't think he was a guy who was really going to make it in Europe, but in his mind, this is what I can do, and he did it. And I think that personality rubs off on his team, and I think he's done a very good job with the team.
They were shut out in their last match, but the two prior they had scored 7 goals combined in those 2 games. How do you slow down their attack with like Higuain and Kamara?
We just got to defend well. We've got to defend well, make sure we have good blocks of our midfield and our defenders, in groups that they work for each other, that we shift and slide. And then when we have the ball, we need to, keep the ball and make them defend, because they're a team that, likes to have a lot of the ball during the game. So the more that we can have the ball, makes them defend a little bit more, takes them to different positions.
Any injury concerns for you guys at the moment?
No, I think we're okay.
Is as healthy as you guys have been all year?
Yeah, the only one is Correa right now, who's injured. Yeah.
Since Ozzy returned, the team's gone 4-1. Can you just talk about the importance that he's had for the team?
Well, he's an important player and an experienced player, in the middle of midfield. And, more than anything, the guys have a lot of faith in him. And sometimes there's certain guys you put on the field and, everybody else, feels a little more confident. So Ozzy not only, helps our team because of his qualities, but I think he helps the other guys because they feel a little more confident.
Are there any dynamic duos you can remember since you've been in MLS that can compare to Clinton Oba as far as statistical production, but also being so fun to watch?
God, you guys are the stats guys, so you guys can figure that out. For me as a coach, I've never had a better forward duo than those two. Moreno and Charlotta were pretty good, but they were not as prolific in terms of when you look at their goal scoring rate. When you look at their total assist rate, they were, I think between the two of them, they had like 30 plus assists, the year we won the championship. So they were more suppliers than they were finishers themselves. But in terms of just guys who are lethal and can finish, it's probably the best pair of forwards I've ever had the chance to work together with.
Okay, I have some numbers for you. Stefan, in his short time here at the squad, he just set the record for the longest minutes played. Just what have you seen in his performance? The most minutes, streak-wise, consecutive minutes, yeah. What have you seen in his performance and just his evolution as a player?
It's just, as I said before, last year was just for him to get confident. We stuck with him at a time where maybe some people thought we shouldn't have, but we stuck with him, and it's paid off for us. And, he's given us no reason, from I think the, midway point of last season till now to make a change there. So that's why he's playing.
Okay, one more for you. Sorry, these are from my writer back in the office. Marco had 2 assists last week, and then also the combination with Ozzy in the midfield, just how difference they have made to the game.
It was great to see Marco get assists because we needed him to get goals and assists and get on the board. I think that's important for us. He certainly helps us a ton offensively. His ability to find the ball and also his ability to keep the ball for our team is really, really important. So, we need everybody playing well, and we'll be the best team possible. And makes it harder for me as a coach to decide who to put on the field. But if everybody's playing well, it's good to have those options.